Is it possible to reach level 80 in Guild Wars 2 without killing a single mob? That means having no weapons, attacking no enemies, not using any skills that would ever deal damage to enemies, and just avoiding any fight or conflict in general. Let's try it out. Pacifist runs in various video games are a relatively popular challenge idea, and since I've been interested in Guild Wars 2 challenges recently, I wanted to give it a try in this game. The goal we have set is pretty simple. We just need to reach level 80. The one caveat, we can't kill any mobs in our journey to do this. What is a pretty simple idea gets completely turned on its head since the majority of content in Guild Wars 2 revolves around the idea of killing enemies to progress through the game. But Guild Wars 2 is a pretty incredible game in the sense that pretty much every single thing you do in this game is going to give you some experience. Killing monsters are a classic, of course, but gathering nodes, exploring new areas, and completing map completion objectives are going to be the next biggest things, and there really is a lot we can dive into, so let's do just that. The race and profession we pick doesn't really matter all that much for the purposes of this challenge. I decided to go with a Sylvari character because it just fits the vibes of what we are doing, since so many Sylvari are incredibly peaceful and don't like attacking anything in the first place. Then I decided to go with a Mesmer since I thought some of the utility skills like Blink and Decoy would be useful for avoiding enemies to defend ourselves since we can't fight back against them. Our first big hurdle is, of course, the tutorial starting instance. While this is typically one of the easiest things any player in Guild Wars 2 can do, it is a fair bit more challenging for us since the victory condition is to defeat the final boss. In our case, the Shadow of the Dragon. But fortunately, that victory condition is met by everyone who is close to the Shadow of the Dragon when it is defeated, so even if we don't attack this boss at all, we can leech off of the other players into the starting instance to complete it. Also, I just want to mention really quickly that I unequipped all my weapons, so I literally can't even attack anything, and I just need to be careful about my raptor and anything I can pick up around the world. But upon completing the tutorial instance, the entire world of Tyria opens up, and I can go anywhere I want. Starting off, I am definitely pretty low level, so I should probably stick to lower level areas, and for us we have access to 5 of them and can waypoint around the world. Since we can't kill any enemies, we won't be able to get every single map completion objective in the game, and can't ever 100% a map outside of like South Sun Cove. But there are still quite a few map completion objectives, like points of interest and vistas, that very rarely ever require fighting. And then many other map completion objectives, like tasks and hero challenges, often don't need any fighting as well. Tasks are interesting because there are so many different types of them in the game, and they often have multiple different ways you can complete them. The average player, myself included, tends to spend most of our time completing tasks by simply defeating enemies, but for us, we have to take some time to complete the tasks via the methods provided that don't involve fighting enemies, and sometimes that does require us to do something that requires a bit of creativity or more time to overcome whichever specific challenge. For example, during the Help Danador Manage His Kennel task located in the Verdance, you usually want to just kill a few mosquitoes because that is above and beyond the fastest way to complete this task. When one of the events pop up here related to killing mosquitoes, you also want to do that because it will help you complete the task even faster while also giving you bonus experience and rewards on top of it. But for us, we can't do any of that, so we have to rely on running around and finding lost hounds, playing with the pups, and getting rid of the mosquito larvae. And as I do different tasks and events, if I ever feel like I need to skip around to somewhere else to get some more levels to unlock some new areas, I can easily do that by going to any of the other starting zones since each starting waypoint is unlocked. Though to some extent, it is very easy for me to just run around and get map completion objectives in higher level areas, since I am not really trying to fight those higher level mobs. But at a certain point, I would just get one shot over and over, so I need to be careful and make sure I progress in a generally linear rate to have an enjoyable experience navigating the world. Throughout my entire journey, but especially as I start my early progression, I want to keep an eye on the Character Adventure Guide. This is a great way, especially for new players, to earn some bonus experience while being directed to certain areas of the game. For us, this is going to be pretty important since a decent chunk of these are objectives that we can complete, but unfortunately, many of them do require us to fight enemies, so this is not going to be something that we can do completely. I guess this is also a good way to keep track of how many enemies I defeat, and hopefully I don't accidentally interact with one that another player kills. As I reach level 15, I approach a cool point where I have now leveled through all of the levels needed for all the starting zones in the game, and can begin looking at all of the secondary zones, such as Keswick's Hills. In fact, I still have quite a few map completion objectives that I can go for in the starting zones that I can work on as I progress towards level 80, but now have even more opportunities as I continue leveling through all the secondary zones, and all of this will be true for future tiers of zones as I continue to level, like when I can start reliably exploring Ganaran Fields at level 25. And map completion or objectives that I can complete without fighting anything alongside any events that are of the same manner are definitely a great way for me to level. There's lots of ways to gain experience in general, and many of them are connected to killing enemies. I always love killing enemies in maps who haven't been killed in a long time for the bit of bonus experience that they provide, but that is obviously not available with this character, so I'll stick to what I have been doing. Wish I wanted to continue until at least level 19 and maybe a little bit beyond, but as I reach level 19, I can now unlock utility skills to fill all 3 of the ability slots alongside the healing skill and looking ahead to the elite skill. I can also consider traits as well, but I will need many more hero points to get all of that. As for skills, the main skill I really want is Blink, as it will allow me to teleport around. This is a great movement ability in general, which is slightly less beneficial because of mounts, but is still nice, especially if I am in combat, as it can allow me to escape situations and can be used in general random circumstances to help get around to various places. I also want Veil because this is a skill that will turn me and others invisible for 2 seconds, which can be nice to sneak past enemies or escape certain situations without being an ability that will deal damage to enemies like Decoy, which I was originally thinking about. Then for the last skill, I was debating Mimic to get double usage out of Blink and Veil, or the classic Portal that would let me zip back and forth if I need to go in and out of a cave or something. And I think currently I want to go with the Mimic, but I'll keep Portal in the back of my head if I decide I ever want to use it. As for the healing skill, I think I want to keep the default of Ether Feast because it is a basic heal that will also remove conditions. And looking ahead at elite skills, I think I want to pick up Signet of Humility purely for the passive and to never activate it, where the passive will reduce duration of incoming stuns, dazes, fears, and taunts by 20%, which I think would just be super convenient. But mass invisibility will be a good option in the same vein as Veil, but 3 times as good. And as far as traits go, I need more hero points and more levels to get a full trait build going, but I want to specifically pick things that will help defend myself, and basically never pick anything that is specifically for fighting enemies. As I've leveled up a little bit more, I think it's time to look at some other sources of experience outside of simple map and event completion. The first thing that comes to mind, which can also be combined with everything else I've done, is gathering resource nodes. Whenever you gather a resource node, you get a tiny bit of experience. If you gather many resource nodes, you can obviously get more and more tiny bits of experience, and every single thing adds up. Everything adding up is the name of the game here. Getting a little bit from completing events and map completion objectives is a nice boost, but smaller things like gathering resource nodes or even reviving other players and allies is going to be helpful. Gathering resource nodes is just naturally going to be a good way to get a little bit of bonus experience as we explore, but on top of that, we get the materials that we harvest. Now, with those materials, I could just store them, or I could sell them on the trading post and get a little bit of gold from my account, which is always a nice thing, but for our purposes, maybe there is something special we can do with them. Crafting. A major way that many people love to level up their characters, and this is a great thing for us to now dive into and explore, because the act of crafting is indeed a very peaceful activity that doesn't require us to kill anything to initially do. With a bunch of the plants, lumber, and ore that I harvest around the world, I can turn those into different things through crafting, and as I do that, I can get some experience. But there is one big caveat. When it comes to making weapons and armor through any of those different crafting disciplines, I need materials that generally only drop from mobs in order to make the necessary inscriptions and insignias. And there are some random obscure ways we could try to get those items, but for the most part, those items require us to kill monsters. And I can process wood and ore and make bits and pieces of weapons to try to get as much experience as possible, which would be a good method, but for the most part, I think I might just ignore those and focus on 2 other ideas, jewel crafting and cooking. Jewel crafting allows us to make some rings, amulets, and accessories that our character could wear for some extra defense if we want, And to make these, all you really need are minerals that we can get from different ore nodes, as well as special gemstones that are rare drops from ore nodes, both of which we can easily get without killing anything. Cooking allows us to make food items out of the plants that we harvest around the world. Obviously, there are several recipes that require us to kill mobs, like anything that requires meat, but there are a wide variety of recipes that we can try to go for that don't require any meat whatsoever. And cooking in general is a crafting discipline that I really like to level up naturally without a guide, because it's just super fun to try to think up what recipes would exist with the ingredients you have, which is something we really need to consider here. Doing both jewel crafting and cooking, or bits and pieces of every other crafting discipline in the game, is a great way to get some experience that can really boost us. And if you really want to optimize experience gains from crafting, you will want to get a crafting booster and follow a guide to maximize your crafting level ups. But after doing a tiny bit of crafting and a bit more map completion, actually a lot more map completion, I want to look at an additional way to level up that is actually pretty effective. The Wizard's Vault is one of the biggest systems added to Guild Wars 2 that overhauls the daily system and adds in weekly objectives alongside various special objectives that you can complete. Progressing through the various objectives of the Wizard's Vault will grant you astral acclaim that can be used for different things. Some are incredibly popular and worthwhile to pick up, like the Mystic Coins, while some are much less popular, like Transmutation Charges. One item that is not very popular to pick up are Tomes of Knowledge. These generally aren't worth it because you get a lot when you are level 80, and leveling in general is very easy to do. But since this is a leveling challenge, I think it is something that is worthwhile to talk about. Up to this point, I've been playing for quite a bit spread out over some time. As I've done that, I've completed a few different daily objectives as well as weekly objectives and have some astral acclaim that I can spend. Within each Wizard's Vault season, you can buy a maximum of 35 Tomes of Knowledge, which equates to 35 player level ups. Again, in a general sense, this isn't really worth it, but for us, this works out decently well to give us a pretty big boost. And between running around the world, getting map completion that doesn't involve fighting, the little bit of a boost from the character adventure guide, the big boost from the Wizard's Vault, and a tiny bit of experience from crafting and other sources, this challenge ended up being pretty easy actually. The character adventure guide and Wizard's Vault are definitely worthwhile for the boost they give, but I found myself spending most of my time running around the world and just doing some casual map completion, as it was the easiest and fastest option from all of the remaining options. And it's also one of the most fun, as I am someone who does tend to like exploring the world of Tyria and do map completion anyways, but I can't 100% any of the maps other than city maps, since there's always a few fighting based hero challenges and some tasks that you need to fight enemies for that I wasn't able to do in each map that I went to. And ultimately, this challenge has actually ended up being incredibly easy. Since I'm not fighting any enemies, there aren't really any chances for me to die, and I ultimately died 2 times because I tapped out to reply to a YouTube comment while I was in the middle of nowhere and I didn't even think about what I was doing, and another time because my fiance needed something and I just left my computer without thinking about it. But ultimately, doing anything like this is always fun to do once. I'm somebody who likes new experiences, and this was a very interesting way to approach Guild Wars 2 that you yourself may enjoy doing sometime just to spice things up if you ever need or want to get another character to a maximum level. But to some extent it just feels time consuming because I am pretty much leveling in the same exact way as any other character, just slower, because I am more limited in what I can do. But again, it's still fun to try out as an experience. And after a while, I can finally get the last little bit of experience that I need to officially reach level 80 and complete this challenge. Let's check some stats really quickly. First is whether or not we actually successfully completed this challenge. Wish I did, but with a technicality. If we check the character adventure guide, we can see that I killed a single enemy. And I know when this happened because it was in Bloodtide Coast towards the end of my leveling journey, and I revived a prior member in the northwestern corner who then killed a nearby mob, and apparently that counts as me participating in the fight. So I still maintained my pacifist status, but I indirectly participated in killing a mob, which is not very pacifist, but maybe it is a loophole that you could utilize if you ever do this challenge. But beyond that, and including that, I reached level 80 without killing or attacking a single mob throughout my entire journey. But maybe most importantly, how long did it take me? Well, it actually only took me a little over 9 hours. Now, 35 of those levels came from spending just a tiny bit of time working on some Wizard's Vault stuff that also gave me a little bit of experience as I did everything. If I had not done that, my time would be a bit longer, but not significantly so. So this was a pretty quick way to get to level 80. On top of only 2 deaths, both of which were because I basically just left my computer, the entire challenge was pretty easy and ultimately not too time consuming. For map completion, aka the majority of time I spent leveling, I completed 46% of the world. Again, if I had not done the Wizard's Vault stuff or any other experiment with gaining experience, my total map completion percentage would be even higher, but I only went and did 42 tasks despite there being more for me to complete, since I felt like it would be faster to just focus on the other objectives. And finally, I didn't keep track of this, but I believe I gained a little over 3 gold through my travels. So, all in all, a pretty easy challenge that was definitely fun to try out, and now that I have this character at level 80, well, I don't think I'll ever play it again, but I will log him out at a specific spot in the Grove to serve as a trophy on my account forevermore. Thank you all so much for watching, I really appreciate it. I hope you all are taking great care of yourselves. Have a good one, everyone.